What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Scoop. We've got some drama going on in the transfer portal. We've got Buckeyes declaring for the draft. Not all of them, though. We got big commitments happening in the portal world for the Buckeyes. We got some new visitors, some new offers going out, all that information to dive into. And obviously, one of the most popular portal players that the Buckeyes want is Mr. Chaz Coleman. Going to talk about a few updates there. But before we get into that, guys, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. And listen, if you haven't downloaded Spreaker yet, you need to do that. We're streaming on that app now. So go ahead and download that. Shoot us a subscription and a like on that app as well. Same on Apple Podcast. If you're listening, hit that like button. And as always, guys, I'm going to bring up my buddy Nevada to go over some different things tonight, but put the super chats in the chat. They go out to help our veterans who help us out every single day. We'll get to those towards the end of the show. What up, chat? See everybody joining every single night. Appreciate you guys, man. Let's get to it, guys. Nevada, where you been, bro? How's life been treating you? Things been going well. That's what I've been hearing.
Well, yeah, I'm alive. I did an ill-advised drive yesterday from Halifax, Nova Scotia, to Sydney, Nova Scotia, in a snowstorm at 1 o'clock in the morning. So that was not the smartest thing I've ever done, but I did survive that, and I'm now back and not back, just back in Sydney, Nova Scotia, but reporting from the furthest utmost northern extremes of our the Buckeye Empire. But everything's good, and been following this crazy transfer portal stuff every day. I don't know how you keep it straight in your head, because I'm having trouble. I'm literally having to write stuff down in real time because it's just madness right now. Yeah, that's madness.
Yeah. It's since the portal was opened, I've got 5 pages so far full. But I wanted to say, man, I feel like that should be on my bucket list. Driving in a snowstorm in Nova Scotia. That just sounds like something that needs to be done. And you just crossed that off your list. I'm a little bit jealous, but I'm also not very normal because definitely sounds ill advised. I remember being in Ohio when they would, have a snow day or something. The first thing I wanted to do was go drive around on the roads and see how bad they really were. But, I guess I'm not normal, I don't think.
Well, Devin, the worst thing about it was, like I said, I got about 3 hours out of Halifax, and then there's like no towns out there. So I was kind of pot committed. So I had to just keep going. So, like, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't even like there was nowhere else to go. So I had to just keep driving through. But if you've ever done that before, oh man, it was bad. It was really, really, I've never been so happy to be done with a drive in my entire life as I was last night. So yes, pray for
Yeah,
Nevada.
you saw it snowing, took off driving, thinking, if it gets too bad, I'll just pull over, get a hotel room.
No hotel. You're in
Nope.
the Maritimes. Nope, nope.
Yeah, that sounds like a trip right there, bro. But heard your daughter had some success, so that is good to hear as well. But yeah, you haven't missed much. Honestly, you've missed a lot of doom and gloom. That's still running rampant in Buckeye Nation, as it always does. But it feels a little bit more intense this year for me, and obviously you've been around for a long time, so I wanted to ask you this. No, I mean, not about you're about the same age as me. You've been around. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, as far as the doom and gloom stuff go, is that a pattern for Buckeyes, even in your life, with as long as you've been covering the Buckeyes, or does it seem to be getting worse for you, or is it the same old same?
Um, Look, I think it's the same old saying. It's just a different thing. And now there's just a lot of change being heaped on Ohio State fans at one time with this transfer portal and expanded playoff and NIL and just all sorts of things all at once. And I think the reality of the transfer portal, this is exactly what I said was going to happen when they first introduced the concept of NIL. And I was shouted down Oh no, Nevada. This is just so that little Timmy can go down to the local tailor and get a, some a deal with it. And I'm like, well, what happens when they start? Oh, that'll never happen. No, everybody wants return on investment, and nobody's just going to throw money at football players. And oh, you're silly. That's never going to happen. And wake me when that happens and affects Ohio State. Well, guys, it's happening. So I just think it's just a different thing. I think people are kind of freaking out a little bit about it because it's so radically different and so it's so not normal for Ohio State fans and for college football fans in general. But the good news is that Ohio State seems to be navigating it fairly well. They're adapting. They were kind of early adopters of the portal system, kind of abused it, and I mean that in a good way. The year that they got Seth McLaughlin and Will Howard and Quinshawn and Caleb and Julian Sayin, kind of before everybody else did, they kind of beat them in the arms race, and now other teams are catching up, and now Ohio State's going to have to adapt. But it had a really huge addition today. The Christian Allegro, however you pronounce it, Allegrio, or whatever it is. I love that guy. I love that guy. I mean, he is a player that when I'm watching Ohio State football play, like he's a guy that's always stood out to me, a guy that's always been able, made an impact. And I just think he's terrific. And I could not be more excited about this guy. He's the guy that was wearing the number 0, jersey there, which is something. That's like kind of the block go at Ohio State. The kind of the caliber of the kid. I love this kid and think he's going to be terrific for the Buckeyes. And I think these are the profile of the kids that Ohio State should always be looking for. High character. And I think he's just going to be a great addition to the Buckeyes in 2026.
Yeah, I agree with you. When he first entered the portal, it was being reported, hey, this is the Buckeyes' number one target at linebacker. So you see, had the production, had 49 tackles last year with 4 sacks. But something to keep in mind of the type of player that he is, when you watch this film right here, you just see a lot of effort, never giving up. You see him shedding a lot of offensive linemen off and making tackles. So great run stopper, can get after the quarterback as well. He's got the bigger body, 6'4", 245 pounds. But when he played us, Nevada, this kid broke his arm and came back in the game and finished playing that game. So, right, you got 2 things. You got that right there. It shows the grit. It shows the toughness that you want and need from a Big Ten linebacker. You're losing 2 big body linebackers in Sonny Styles and whatnot. But bringing this guy in, James Laurinaitis, making him his number 1 target in the transfer portal should speak a lot to the type of player that he is. There's a lot of responses from Buckeye fans that aren't too excited about this, but that's pretty normal as well. But when you watch his film and you understand how James Laurinaitis zoomed in on this guy in the portal to go get him, I'm excited. You're watching his film now. You see the type of linebacker he is. I think when you're losing both the linebackers we did, this is the perfect pickup in the portal, and it's what the portal's used for. Very experienced linebacker to bring into a very young linebacker room for us next year.
Well, so what are the people that are not excited about it saying? 'Cause I honestly, I try to understand the other side of the take when people are making takes, but what would be the other side of that take? Like, what, make the
Oh,
argument against him being a good player for Ohio State.
okay. He has a 50 PFF grade in coverage. He's got a 66 PFF grade in run stop ability. He has 11 missed tackles on the year. So not very good in coverage, and 11 missed tackles, kind of a lot. And also 2 freshman linebackers were kind of taking some reps from him this year. I don't know that to be fact, but that's what everybody's saying. That's what the other side of the coin is saying. So there you go. Those are the pieces of information, right? And something I put on Twitter today is things change. You do have misses in the portal. Obviously, the Buckeyes have made some misses in the portal before, but the team you're on changes the way you play football. Wisconsin football is not the same as Ohio State football. Who you surround yourself with will change your game. And also, players can get better. There's a whole offseason here, but respond to the negative side. For the people that don't like him, bringing up, pointing out all the negative things they possibly can. What you got to say to that?
Well, first of all, PFF is the most unreliable thing that you could possibly ever go to in terms of making an evaluation, either positively or negatively. You know what I'm saying? Um, the people that are tasked with doing the grading at PFF are literally minimum wage employees that are just there, and they're just kind of given the tape, and they just kind of, you know, make some determination without a knowledge of what the defensive call is, what his responsibility. Like, how can you grade somebody on a defensive thing unless you know exactly what his responsibility is on that play? You know what I'm saying? So, the thing about missed tackles or something is, I'm not even sure how that number rates or how that compares to other people or whatever it is. But all I know is from my eyes, from having watched that kid play, he always played well against us. He always made an impact, tough as heck. And for the people that I talked to up at Wisconsin, they didn't want to lose him. So, I'm excited about getting him. I would imagine that Ohio State's intelligence in terms of that particular player, given their context up in Wisconsin, was pretty solid. And James Laurinaitis too is, while Ohio State has not been perfect in the portal by any measure, they've been darn good. Their hit rate's really, really high in the portal. So, considering that Laurinaitis wanted this kid and wanted him so badly, I'm excited about it. So, put Nevada down for team excitement on that commitment. And I will, you can hold me to that one when we see him play next year. But I think Ohio State fans are going to really like this kid because I know Ohio State's excited about the get, and that certainly puts me on the positive side of the ledger on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Number one, I went and watched the film. Okay, I don't pay attention so much to the PFF grades and the missed tackles. I went and watched the film. And number two, I know how badly James Laurinaitis wanted this linebacker. Okay, look what James did with Cody Simon and Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. And yes, physical freaks, but James Laurinaitis is pretty good at picking out talent. He got Riley Pettijohn, TJ Alfreds, Sincere Johnson, and those guys. So the Buckeyes are being very patient in this portal, and they are, operating not quite as fast as Ohio State fans would like them to operate. Yet today, we had some visits on campus from two Alabama defensive linemen, and James Smith, the 6'3", 310-pound starting tackle for Alabama, had 26 tackles, 2.5 sacks this year. And the defensive end, Quay Rasal, 6'2", 235 pounds. He's had 49 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Coming off an injury this year, kind of a package deal for the Buckeyes. So you see how they're operating. They're being patient. Nevada, when you hear, right, or when you see the Buckeyes get some portal targets on campus and then they commit to other schools, and you see other schools like Indiana on all these other teams signing all these portal players, I know what you're going to say here, but explain to us what Ohio State's process is in this and why we should not be freaking out. I mean, you see the visits piling up. I didn't even list them all. We got offered the Colorado quarterback today. We got the Michigan State Mekhi Frazier running back who averaged 4.5 yards per carry. Michigan State's leading rusher last year with a horrible offensive line visiting tomorrow. Defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, Francis Buru. That's not how you say his name, but his first name's Francis. 6'3", 280, excuse me, from Ohio. He's visiting this weekend. So the Buckeyes are getting people on campus. What's your thoughts on how they're handling the process so far?
Well, I think you have to understand that the number one priority for Ohio State is to keep as many of their existing players on their roster as they possibly can. And so far, to date, while we've lost a few guys that we had aspirations of them making inroads into being players next year, I don't think we've lost any starters. The closest thing to that would be Tigra, and I'm not sure he's kind of in that special place, starter, not starter, whatever it is. So I think Ohio State's priority is always going to be on, um, keeping the existing roster together, and that's a challenge because it's not just the draft eligible guys. It used to be when you talked about retaining a roster, it was solely about, hey, can you keep the guys out of the NFL draft and get them back? You would traditionally be thinking about the Jack Sawyers or the JT Tumalaws or the Denzel Burks or the Jordan Hancocks or the Tyleek Williams, or go down the list of guys. And now it's, any player that had a positive year for Ohio State now is asking for a raise. They're all asking for a raise. So, your Bo Jacksons and your Julian Sayans and your JJ Smiths and your Brandon Innit. I mean, it just go down the list of any player that's had kind of a positive outcome. You know, they all want more money. So, Ohio State's been trying to respond to that by dealing with those things first and trying to get those things as best they can, while trying to research for high character kids that they can fill into the box. And, with 4,500 players in the portal, 30% of the college football players that are even playing in the portal right now, others colleges are going to sign players. And we're at a different spot in terms of our evolution as a team. We've got an existing roster. We've got a high, highly rated class of incoming freshmen. Schools that aren't like that are going to be adding more through the portal. So we're just really at a different. I'm not saying we're playing a different game than other schools, but I think you need to evaluate us differently, because it's really going to be about what does our roster look like at the end of this process. I know it seems like the wild, wild west right now, but Ohio State's on it. And as you said, they've had 40 kids in for visits or what. I mean, it's been just an incredible, busy time for Ohio State in terms of getting kids in and out, evaluating who's going to be back, renegotiating contracts with existing players that are draft eligible. So, a lot going on at Ohio State. I liken it a lot to like a duck where he's kind of calm on the top, but underneath they're paddling like crazy. That's what Ohio State's doing right now. Awful lot of things going on behind the scenes with Ohio State. And, don't mistake a lack of public inactivity for a lack of progress. Lots are going on, things are happening. And I think by the end of the process, I'm very confident that we're going to be, I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but I'm confident that we're going to be in a good spot for Ohio State. And I think Ohio State fans are going to be pleased.
Yeah, so many things there. Number one I'll hit is Ohio State is definitely coming from a different perspective than most teams, right? Act like you're starting a business here. Ohio State's not starting a business with $0 in the bank. Ohio State is starting a business. They already got $1 million in the bank so they can go out, right, and get things. What other teams in the nation have Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Edric Houston, all these, their whole offensive line? We've got to focus on bringing those guys back. And there's a couple players. Nevada, Arvell Reese declared for the draft today. Caleb Downs, Carnell Tate, Brandon Innisetti's coming back. Bo Jackson, we got to get him back, which, by the way, I'm being told is moving forward in a positive way and not a negative way, like I've heard other people report. Maybe you can hit on that a little, Nevada. But the Buckeyes are in a different situation. We have lost some, but you'd be hard-pressed to show me another team in the nation that currently has more talent on their roster than Ohio State. Even though we've lost a couple of those pieces, the Quincy Porters, the Bryce Wests, the Aaron Scotts, the Mylan Grahams, which the Mylan Graham recruitment is not over, by the way. He could be coming back to the Buckeyes, but we will see. But definitely a way different situation than a lot of these other teams. And another point I wanted to hit on is what you said is the way Ohio State is handling this transfer portal. I know firsthand it is difficult to get information, to get names of kids that are visiting from the Buckeyes right now. That wide receiver that visited, they were very, very concerned with making sure nobody reported that when he visited. Nobody knew he visited. The only time we heard his name is after he committed. You think that's the only player that the Buckeyes have been doing that with this cycle? I will tell you that it's not. We heard of some visitors today, but I was told there were 2 more visitors on campus that I have not seen reported anywhere on Twitter, X, even on message boards. I haven't seen it. So they're operating in a different way, which kind of makes sense because here's a fact. If Ohio State is after somebody, other teams piggyback off of that and will, in fact, go after it, sometimes just to make Ohio State pay more, sometimes because they trust Ohio State's evaluation and want what they have. And that's not just an Ohio State thing, that's across the country. So, yeah, multiple things there. And Ohio State is treating this transfer portal, right, in a different way than most other teams. And the other thing is, Nevada is we're still waiting, right? We are waiting on some players to make decisions, which is going to impact what Ohio State needs and wants in the portal. And that's Kenyatta Jackson hearing really good news there that he is coming back. Caden McDonald, that's one that's still up for negotiation. They're still trying there. That's going to be a super hard one. Jermaine Matthews, I don't think he's came out and said he's coming back yet. So still have to be patient here. Wait for some of these players to make some decisions. But all along the way, behind the scenes, the Buckeyes are working just as hard or harder than any other team in the nation. But if you read Twitter and message boards sometimes, some people forget that sometimes, I think.
Well, look, I think for a number of podcasts and a number of other people, the negative kind of sells. They try to appeal to people's worst fears and try to go negative on this stuff, and people kind of gravitate towards that. And I think it's wrong. I think it's silly, and I don't understand it because I'm not viewing things with Ohio State in a negative light. I'm just viewing it as, hey, this is the new reality of college football in 2026, and you have to adapt or die. Ohio State's adapting. We're one of the highest revenue teams in all of college sports. We've got the largest alumni base in all of college sports, and while we don't have as many high profile big pocketed NIL donors like a Larry Ellison at Michigan or a Mark Cuban at Indiana or Phil Knight at Oregon, we got a lot of wealthy people that support the Buckeyes and continue to support the Buckeyes, and a fan base that supports the Buckeyes. So if anybody's going to be able to play this game long term, as well as anybody, it's going to be Ohio State, and I think that's where they feel. And ask yourself this: would Matt Patricia be coming back to this if he didn't feel like this was a good spot to be or a place that he could be competitive? If he thought that this was a place where he was going to be behind the 8 ball, couldn't compete, didn't have the talent to be able to field a good do you think he'd be rushing to come back? I don't think he would. I think he'd be like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to move on down the road. So I think for Ohio State, it's just change, and change is scary for a lot of people, and change is upsetting for a lot of people. But it's kind of like when we moved away from being exclusively a recruiting coverage company and site. It's just so hard in this NIL era, in this transfer portal era, and anything to get it right when you're just talking about, somebody could be ready to come and then somebody offers them $2 million and it all changes. So I think what we'll continue to do is dig for the inside information, give you guys kind of the behind the scenes in terms of who the targets are, who's on campus, who's interested, who's landing. And my strong sense is Ohio State's going to profile a type of kid, and I think that they'll get the types of kids that are interested in. I think for them, the bag chasers, and I don't want to name any of the Ohio State kids that are in the portal as being bag chasers, but a number of them, this almost happened with during the recruitment. It was like they were going to be there, then they were going to decommit and take more money elsewhere, and then they came back. So I think when you're in those situations, if you're just chasing the bag, this probably isn't the place that you're going to end up. And when that happens, I think others you could go to some other places, and maybe if they have 20 great bag chasers over there that they'll win. But I haven't seen that work yet in any sport that I've been involved in. I think you got to be coming to schools for the right reason, but we'll see. And I like Ohio State's approach. I think it's patient. I think it's slow and steady. And I think they're going to get to I think they'll get to a great spot by the end of this thing, but it's just got to be allowed to play out.
Yeah, patience, something that we have to. I mean, the portal's been open for 6 days now, Nevada. 6 days. And I keep getting told by people on the inside that right? There are some players, probably still to this day, that are going to be on the Buckeyes roster that haven't even entered the portal yet. Okay, so that's kind of what we got going on. Something I did want to mention too is, right, there are negative things to the portal, and most everything from when players leave our team, when they leave the Buckeyes, and as well as other fan bases, when a player leaves, it's perceived in a negative fashion, right? Well, teams like Ohio State, teams like Georgia and Alabama, and all the other teams, the opposite of that can be true as well. These teams can use the transfer portal, right, to process kids out that don't fit the program very well. And I think that gets forgotten a lot of the time. Not every player you guys see leave us, leave other teams, are because, right, the bag or because of other reasons. Sometimes it's players get processed out for all kind of various different reasons. So right there's a lot of assuming and guessing going on in why players are entering the portal. Sometimes we know, sometimes there's a whole backstory to it that not a lot of people are aware of. Nevada, one more thing I wanted to hit on. Actually, I got two questions I want to ask you, but first I want to ask any updates on Chaz Coleman, because, boy, you want to talk about the number one player in the portal that Buckeye fans are focusing on more than anybody else is Chaz Coleman, and we got some negative reports coming out today. So, you got any news on Chaz Coleman?
Well, look, I think the source of these negative reports was the same person that was saying that Chris Henry Jr. was not coming to Ohio State. And at the time when that happened, I said, let's let this play out because Chris Henry Jr. is looking for reasons to say yes. Sometimes you just got to let things kind of cool down a little bit. Let's give it a couple days. That's exactly what you can go back and watch the podcast. That's what I said at the time. And
It
that's when
is.
everybody else, oh, Chris Henry Jr.'s gone. He's gone to Oregon and blah, 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 blah. And what ended up happening? Coming back to the Buckeyes. So what I'll say on Chaz Coleman is let's let this play out right now because Chaz wants to be a Buckeye. He is looking for reasons to say yes to the Buckeyes, not reasons to say no. And in my experience, one of the benefits of having the more of the gray hair and having been around the block more than once is usually when people are looking for a reason to say yes, they come back around and find that reason to say yes. And that's kind of where I would say the negotiations are right now. I think there's a little bit of an impasse based upon an injury history with Coleman and the amount of money that other teams are asking for. He's willing to take a discount. Just a question of how much of a discount. Ohio State feels like they've made a really feel a competitive offer. I'm not as negative on that situation. Now, that's not saying Chaz Coleman's coming to Ohio State, but I am telling you the conversations are ongoing. They're active. The communication lines are open, and much like the Chris Henry Jr. situation, when you have open lines of communication with two willing parties that want to make a deal, a lot of times those deals get made. So that's where this one's at right now. I would say just let's allow this thing to play out. But both sides want to make a deal. We just got to see if the deal can get done. So I'm not. So that was a long answer to am I as negative as it? I'm not even close to being as negative. There's other things that I think this one just let's let this play out a little bit and see where this one ends up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I see a lot of people talking about Chaz Coleman chasing the bag. That is the exact opposite of what I'm hearing as far as Chaz Coleman himself. Now, these players are surrounded by a lot of people, right? A lot of influences, agents, families, and all that. So who knows, right, what this is coming down to. But, I have not been told the Buckeyes are out of this thing at all. I've been told it's between the Buckeyes and LSU right now. And LSU is reportedly flying down to visit him tomorrow and all these other things. They are coming in strong. But the fact, right, that he has not committed yet to LSU tells you exactly what you're saying is true, is that, right, he is looking for a reason to commit to the Buckeyes. Let's hope that that ends up happening. By the way, Buckeye fans, you're not going to like this, but I just got told that Quincy Porter will be committing to the Michigan Wolverines. That's a little side note there. So let that sink in and just be blessed with that one. So, I don't know if you knew that or not, but I don't know if it's
Well,
legit or confirmed
well,
yet or not,
well,
but I just got told it's about to happen.
well. Just because that story's out there, I mean, that was the rumor that Quincy Porter was going to do before signing day. I had heard that from a very credible source in the
Mm-hmm.
agent community that Quincy Porter was not signing with Ohio State, that he was going to be signing with Michigan, and the numbers they were throwing out at the time were crazy. I didn't, believe it, and he ended up signing with Ohio State. And I was excited about it, and I'm excited about him as a player. If any wide receiver goes to play with Bryce Underwood as his quarterback, then he's got the mind of an infant. Okay, that you are really legitimately stupid, because Bryce Underwood is a wide receiver killer. He's a guy that, if your plan is to play in the NFL, then, and maybe for a lot of these guys, it's not, because I think about, think about back in history, like how much would Troy Smith have commanded in the portal in '05 or '06 from Ohio State or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Like he would have got millions of dollars and had no NFL career. Maybe guys aren't planning to have an NFL career, but you're not going to have an NFL career as a wide receiver playing with Bryce Underwood, because he can't throw the football. He can't throw the football. His mechanics suck. He can't throw with any accuracy. And Kyle Whittingham is not exactly a quarterback whisperer, considering the fact that in his 20-year stint as head coach, he never had a single quarterback drafted in any round in the NFL draft. Not one.
Yeah.
So that's not the best situation to go in for a quarterback. And if you're a wide receiver, it all starts with the quarterback. So if that's true, good luck to Quincy. I wish him well. That seems like an extension of a story that we had heard before his commitment was done.
Yeah, I mean the rumor is they're going to pay him $1.5 million to go there. I'm just going to let you guys know I don't fully believe that. I think Quincy Porter's a great player. A lot of injuries though, but for a team to go pay $1.5 million for a wide receiver that had 4 catches and was injured most of the year and is injured right now, that sounds a little desperate to me. Nevada, final question. We'll dive into these super chats. Again, I feel like I know what you're going to say here, but you've just been around the game so long, and so many people right now are reporting that Ohio State cannot keep up with these other teams as far as nil goes. I know we've covered this topic 100 times, but I just want to cover it again because it keeps getting reported that we cannot keep up with Michigan on the nil front because of Larry Ellison. We can't keep up with these other teams that have these big billionaires that donate to their team. And people keep connecting that to our 6 days into the portal and us thinking we're not spending enough money, and the Bo Jackson rumors that we're not going to pony up the money for him and all these other things. I just want to get your thoughts on that as far as where you think, by the way, currently where you think the defending national champs stand on the nil front.
Well, the Larry Ellison stuff is kind of the most perplexing, because you would think if Larry Ellison had the fire hose of money turned at Michigan, that they would have added some players of note, right? And so, who is Michigan at? Who have they brought in? I mean, they've kept a couple of players. Like Underwood didn't leave yet. They brought back the one defensive back, but Quincy Porter would literally be like the first player of note, besides like a kicker and a punter, that they brought in. So for all I hear about this stuff about these, while you're seeing some, the spigots being turned on at Texas Tech and Indiana, Oregon's always active. I am not seeing it at all with Michigan in the way that people are saying it. One, two, Ohio State's right there with everybody. Just Ohio State fans, they want to get every player. You know what I'm saying? They want to keep every player. They want to pay every player on the existing roster, and then they want to get every player in the portal. And it's just like, it's just not feasible to do something like that. And I think for Ohio State fans, they have to have at least one foot grounded in reality, which is we're not going to get everybody. We're not going to win every bidding war. But the idea that we're falling behind in NIL, or that we're behind some 8 ball, or we don't know, is just it's just it is put out there by the dumbest people in the world on social media that are just looking at things and saying, "Hey, we should get this guy." How do you get it? If I say to you, Devin, you have to get every player in the portal and keep every player on your roster. How in the world do you do that?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
You don't.
you don't. And here's the thing, Nevada, that's tripping me out though, is can we really not realize that the portal season is not over yet? Like, can we wait until it's done before we decide if Ohio State is spending any money in the portal or not? There's number one. Like, we're acting like the portal at January 16th, 8 days away, by the way, Ohio State still can't sign players that are in the portal. We can. This isn't over yet. The roster's not finished yet, and you got people making all these assumptions already. It's like making the assumption that we got to completely change our talent acquisition. Where is this coming from? What evidence shows you that we have to change how we get talent, right? You're trying to project into the future and act like you know what's going to happen, but right, that's like trying to tell me we didn't win games this year because we didn't have enough talent on the team. I just find that absolutely ludicrous to say. And, I can halfway perceive why people were saying, hey, your strategy's going to need to change. But since the portal and NIL has started, when has Ohio State lacked in talent? Every year. Like, tell me the year that we didn't have the talent to win the national title. I think we had the talent this year to do it. The ball just did not fall in our favor. So I feel like I say the same stuff every single show, but it is literally blowing my mind. I would love for somebody to sit down and factually and intellectually tell me where they are gathering this information from, that Ohio State is extremely flawed in how they put a team together. I'm just at a loss, for to be honest with you.
Well, and as good as we were, this year, and I agree with you, I think we had as much talent as anybody. I think we're going to be the most talented team in college football next year. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm seeing. And so I don't get it. I don't understand. But I think sometimes, look, Jim Tressel talked about miserable fans, and some people just like to wallow in misery. And like I said, between people wanting to wallow in misery and people liking to sell misery, I think you've got, there seems like there's a lot of willing buyers out there, but I don't understand it.
Yeah. And yes, I always say this. I'm not sure Nevada feels the same way, but everybody can have their own opinion, right? It's just, I just hear the same negative opinions over and over, and it wears me down. And yes, you are free to have your own opinion, but my gosh, we went undefeated this year. We made it to the quarterfinals, lost a devastating game. I don't know, bro. I just don't think the world's falling. I think we're going to be great. But yes, you are entitled to your own opinion. If we root for the same team, I'm cool with you for the most part, but it does
Yeah,
get
yeah,
old sometimes. I mean, it gets old.
Devin, you can have a different opinion, but it's got to be fact based and it's got to be reality based. You can't just go out. I mean, like, seriously, if you're spewing opinions that don't have any reflection of reality, then you're just being stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, say, well, that's my opinion. And I'm like, well, no, it's just stupidity. So, for this show, we don't do stupid here. Just be fact based. Like, if we're looking at the 2026 roster and kind of go, we're not as talented, we're like right behind, we can have that argument. That's a discussion we can have. But like, when you have the two best players in football, Julian Sand and JJ Smith, on your roster for next year, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that we have a big talent gap at Ohio State. So, just don't be stupid.
Touche, touche. We will move on to super chats. I mean, man, that sounds just like such a factual statement you just said, Nevada. Anyway, Steely, thanks so much for the $1.99, brother. Welcome back, Nevada Buck. He says, "Welcome, Nevada." What do you got to say to that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Just been on the travel train here for the last 48 hours, but back at it. Just know that I'm never far away from my phone or the computer, so I'm always tracking stuff in real time. But good to be back on the show with my buddy Devin tonight.
All righty, Clueless. Thank you so much for the $10. This just in: Nevadabuck, I didn't read this before, so I'm trying to. It's too late. It's already up. Has entered the transfer portal right now. USC and Ole Miss seems to be leading his recruitment. JK, happy to see you back, Nevada.
Yeah, no, I would be. But I'm trying to think about who I would transfer to. If Nevadabuck was transferring his allegiances to somebody, yeah, I don't know who it would be. Who's my second? I think my second favorite team. Who do you think my second favorite team is? That's a good question. Who do you think my second? This is probably going to surprise you. If you've heard the old shows, you talked about Nevada Buck. Who do you think Nevada Buck's second favorite team is?
Listen, my first response wants to say USC. You know what I mean? But I don't. That's too obvious. I don't think that's it. Do you hate Notre Dame? I
Oh,
can't
I hate
believe
Notre
that's your.
Dame. I hate Notre Dame with everything.
Okay, that's a good question, man. Big Ten or SEC?
It's Big Ten school.
It's Big Ten school. I think I might be stumped, man. Penn State?
UCLA.
Dang, yeah. I should have followed the clues. UCLA, huh?
Come on,
They're,
UCLA. I like. I've been a UCLA season ticket holder since the '70s, and I love
oh,
UCLA. My brother went to UCLA and was an NCAA champion in NCAA, and we got big ties. My sister went to UCLA, so we got big connections at UCLA. But yeah, no, that would be my second favorite. Now, again, it's a distant second. Like you got
yeah.
Ohio State, that's like one through like 172, and then like UCLA be 173, and then everybody else would be beyond that. But yeah, UCLA second favorite team.
I feel like our second teams are very similar in that you feel like just because of where they are and their name and all that, they should be way better every single year. But guess my second favorite team? They're not in the Big Ten or in the SEC.
I'm gonna go Florida A&M. Florida A&M. Final answer.
Okay, all right, all right. I mean, it's kind of close.
I'm
It's kind of
I'm
close.
going up to Jacksonville State.
No, 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 no.
Not
We're gonna go.
okay.
We're gonna go. We're gonna go FSU just because I can throw a rock and hit the stadium. You know what I mean? So,
Come on,
but
FSU. Look at you,
yeah, yeah.
Devin.
I
Free shoes, Devin.
All right, here we go. Jason, thanks for the 9.99. I have really become frustrated with other channels I watched. Another channel highlighting two players slamming Day and staff after the Clemson loss. Back in the day, what else does Day need to do? Yeah, that was interesting. They were talking about how they treated, if I remember this correctly, talked about how they were treating one of their star players, pointing him out, telling all the mistakes that he made. And when I heard him talking the story, I was like, oh, sounds like pretty good coaching to me. But I could be wrong. About any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Well, no. I mean, I think the question, Jason, is what else? Day just needs to win every single game and beat Michigan every single year, win the Big Ten every year, and win the national championship. I mean, it's very simple, Jason. If you're asking what Day needs to do, as for the player, not Baron Browning, that was receiving the ire of Day after that. I mean, like, I agree with you. When I heard the story, I was like, that's good coaching. Um, stuff like that. Look, Day's a tough guy. Don't get fooled by the mental health moniker and the tough love and love conquers all and love is the monkey and all the other little things that they talk about. He's a tough guy. He's a tough guy, and you got to be a tough guy to strive with. But after he won the national championship last year, he's got my eternal respect, love, and admiration because that was the greatest coaching job that I've ever seen. What unbelievable reclamation, and I wouldn't want anybody else running this program other than Ryan Day.
Yeah, I mean, he's the winningest coach in college football history. So I don't know what else he can do. But hey, listen, for me, I played basketball. Like after some games, when coaches really got into me in front of the whole team, be honest, it might upset me at first, but in the long run, I took it as a really good thing. Like, dang, man, that means the coaches expect a lot out of me, a lot more than what I did. So they must think I'm a pretty good player. So that's how I always took that kind of stuff. But I mean, some people are softer than others. Here we go. Jerry, thanks for the 9.99 OH.
IO.
Toledo Geo, what's good, brother? Thanks for the $2. Any inside scoop on the Learfield stuff? I don't have any. Nevada?
Yeah, I'm really trying to get a handle on exactly how that whole Learfield thing is working with Ohio State right now. It's been one of the great mysteries of this entire process, frankly, because it seems like everybody's just kind of kicked that to the curb, and it's a free for all right now. And I know that the people from Learfield are a little bit frustrated by that, but I don't have enough of an insight in terms of exactly what the nature of the relationship is, other than to say. Um, it's all being completely ignored right now. It's kind of like it's just an open negotiation. What's the price? But they're not even trying to kind of mask any of this stuff as anything other than payola. And that's not how this thing was supposed to be set up. But it's exactly how I said it was going to come down when NIL was first introduced years and years and years ago. So none of this is surprising.
Yeah, I will tell you when this first came out, the NCAA said, "Hey, no foundations, no none of those," and then they changed that rule. I mean, right then and there, I knew there was. I mean, it was gonna happen sooner than later. But so that's essentially what schools are doing now. They're following the rules by going through their foundations. I mean, you read that LSU contract that came out for was it Desmond Williams or whatever. It literally says it in their contract. You know what I mean? That's their way around these CSC rules and all these other things. So yes, we do know but I will say this: Ohio State is operating a little bit more in the gray than what we might think. They're well aware of what is going on and what they will and will not get in trouble for. Iowa Buck, thanks for the $4.99. Do people think we are entitled to win the Natty every year? Get a grip. We were 12-0. Iowa Buck, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I really, really couldn't. I thought this year's team was really, really good. That doesn't mean I agreed with everything Ryan Day did and I thought the season was perfect. That means that I know in college football, players, coaches, and programs will not be perfect and they will make mistakes. I want them to learn from their mistakes and move on. And so far, Ryan Day hasn't been perfect at that even, but he's been pretty darn good, just like Ohio State in the portal. They have not been perfect, but show me another team that's recruited a Caleb Downs and a Julian Sayin on their roster, and we can talk then, but you're not going to show me one because there's no other Caleb Downs in college football. And Quinshot Judkins, I mean, so, Nevada.
Like my expectations, I mean, I thought preseason the line on the regular season was 10.5 wins. So, if they won 10 games out of the 12, you lost. If they won 11, that'd be an over. And frankly, I would have bet under that. I mean, this team really exceeded my expectations for them during the regular season. I'm disappointed as hell that Fielding missed that field goal in the Big Ten championship game. That we came up a little bit short there, and that the Miami game. Look, we threw a pick six. Can't have that happen. I wish that we had varied the snap count. I think there's some very simple things we could have done to beat Miami because I don't think Miami's a great team. But we lost. Sometimes that happens, and you learn from it, and you got to be better by it. But I agree with you. I mean, and the expectations for Ohio State have always been high, but I think that some people that are completely insane. This team exceeded my expectations. You can't lose 14 guys to the NFL draft and then not have some degradation of play. We just didn't see it because our coaching staff did a hell of a job, and but I'm confident we'll be back in 2026 and be right back in the mix.
Yeah. I honestly saw in the playoffs what I expected to see sooner in the year, right? And possibly lose a game in the regular season because of what we saw in the playoffs of a red shirt quarterback, and kind of getting this team together a little bit more. But, luckily for us, all the offensive lines coming back. Well, I think luckily, and everybody that's a whole other show right there. But I mean, I think we're pretty good. I don't think we did not underachieve by any means this year at all, in my opinion. But it was an absolute that Miami game was absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, there's no way around it. It was, but I just live in a different reality, have a different perspective on it. Greggs, thank you so much for the $5. Any word about Jamie French? Happy to see you back, Nevada. I got a word about Jamie French. No, thank you. Nevada?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that obviously we all followed his recruitment for a long time at Ohio State, and a guy that I thought for a while was certainly going to be part of our class. You don't go after everybody. Not everybody kind of fits the profile of the kids that you're looking at. I don't think this is going to be one where there's a love connection, and so I would be skeptical hippo about this one.
Yeah, he went to Texas because he wanted a Lamborghini. Ohio State's not going to give him a Lamborghini. It's not going to happen. Gio, thanks for the $2. The sky is always falling with some of our fans. That it is, Gio. That it is. I don't really have much to say about that. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's not falling for me whatsoever. And I'll just always come on here and give you guys my opinion. I was very open about my opinion of Jaden Fielding. For those of you guys that want to say sunshine pumper, not at all. The positive things I tell you are seriously really what I think. I'm really there. This isn't for the show. It's not for an aura. I'm really there. I am that positive about this team. I am that positive about this coaching staff and what they are going to do in the portal. Again, the portal ends, and I'm not happy. I'll tell you, Nevada.
Well, yeah. Look, one of the core tenets of our show here is complete honesty with the people, and you can look. People know when you're being lied to. People know when people are trying to pump you either positively or negatively. You know it, and we'll give you the truth. If we think things are bad, we will be the first people to tell you that we think things are bad. And I'm just not there at all. I look. Do we have some challenges? Am I happy about losing it? No, of course not. I'd love to keep everybody, get everybody, and sort. Have 1,000 players on the roster and just sort them out and keep them from everybody. I just know that's not reality. So I have to take a step back and look at where are we in the college football world? Where's our talent? Where's our coaches? Where's our program? Wouldn't trade places with anybody. Love where we're sitting. Is it perfect? Far from it. But I like our ground.
Amen. Wholesome, thanks for the $9.99. Tavian St. Clair needs look. Hate to be negative. Game has evolved past statue. Didn't score more than 17 points against our three top opponents with the talent we have. Not nearly good enough. Need it in the red zone. Nevada, I'll let you hit this one first. About went in.
Well, first of all, I guess we're having some fun with the top three opponent. I mean, I guess Michigan doesn't count as a top three opponent anymore. So that's there's that. But the idea that Tavian St. Clair is better than Julian saying, guys, we really have to stay out of fantasy land right now. There's no world in the world where that's true. So it's Julian saying or bust. Julian Sain's reticence to run is directly coming from Ryan Day. That is directly a Ryan Day joint. Ryan Day did the same thing with Justin Fields. Ryan Day did the same thing with CJ Stroud. Ryan did the same thing with Kyle McCord. So it's like this is not unique to Julian Saint. This is Ryan Day. And Ryan Day's got to change his mentality about the quarterback. And how do I know this? Because I talk to these guys and they say, Ryan Day says this, hey, I didn't recruit you here to be a running back. And for them, frankly, for a lot of them, that's attractive. The one exception was Will Howard, where he'd already had 40 starts as a running quarterback. He already had that in his DNA, and he went off and kind of did his thing. But Justin Fields is the runningest quarterback in the history of the NFL. He runs more than he passes in the NFL, and he barely ran at Ohio State. So put it together. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see 4 out of the last 5 years, we've had 0 rushing quarterbacks, TDs from our QB1. That's Ryan Day. So if changing to Tavian St. Clair, let me tell you, it ain't going to make a difference because Ryan Day is the same guy. He's got to change. Julian Saint rushed for 160 yards in a game I watched in high school. He can run the football. Ryan Day's got to encourage him. Ryan Day's got to put him in a position to do it, and Ryan Day's got to tell him it's okay for him to do it. That's what's going to change, not a quarterback change. End of rant.
Yeah, very well said. Took the words out of my mouth. I mean, if you've been watching Ohio State football, that's not a debate. The quarterbacks here don't run because of Ryan Day. And as far as Julian saying being capable of running, go watch his high school film. Go watch the Wisconsin game. All we need Julian saying to do is what Carson Beck did to us. Julian saying is more than capable of doing that. It's down to the coaching staff, and right, all we can hope is we watched Day make some adjustments last year. Maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the time where that switch flips in his head, and he's like, "All right, I've got to let these quarterbacks run a little more, because it's needed. Definitely in the red zone, but all over the field for sure." Sean, thanks for the $5. Higher likelihood Coleman to OSU or Bo to the portal. Also, any update on Aaron Scott or Mylan Graham returning, Nevada?
I mean, higher likelihood Coleman to OSU or Bo to the portal. I'd say Coleman to OSU because I don't think Bo's going to the portal. Also, any update on Aaron Scott or Mylan Graham returning? Conversations are continuing on both guys. So could one or both happen? Yeah, I mean, you see it all over college football. Look, if I was a college football player or my son was a college football player, a great college football player, I got to tell you, it'd be silly kind of not to enter your name into the transfer portal. I mean, just from an economic standpoint, just to try to drive a better offer, just to try to, get more money coming back. Because even if you were able to increase your economic reality by a couple $100,000, think about these kids. These guys are making $1 million. Like I have a guy, the son was a third string offensive lineman, did not play a lick at Big Ten school, and transferred to another mid-major school and got $100,000. Okay, and said he had been offered $100,000 from every MAC school. So even MAC schools are offering third-string players $100,000. If you're in college, Devin, and you've got your room paid for, your board paid for, your cafeteria, your training, and then on top of that, they throw you $100,000 or 200 or 300. You're living large, man. So
Oh,
for these guys, to go out there and try to squeeze another couple 100,000, I don't begrudge them. It's the way it's all about the kids' mentality of NIL. They set it up that way. That's what the world we're living in, and they're just taking advantage of it.
Oh, yeah. Some of these situations, like I said, I try to be honest with you guys. Some of these situations where we get upset at Ohio State players, in my mind, I'm thinking, I would have done the same thing. So I know the amount of money that is out there. It's pretty wild. But yeah, definitely Coleman to OSU. It's rumored that Bo is asking for an astronomical amount of money. I haven't been able to confirm that, but Ohio State is well aware of what they have in Bo, but he is not a Quinshon Judkins or a Travion Henderson. He's just not. Nobody can debate that with me right now. At this point in time in his career, he is not at their level whatsoever. In my opinion, very good running back, very good potential, but he's not there. Aaron Scott, Mylan Graham, a lot of positive news about Mylan Graham today, visiting Notre Dame. And Aaron Scott, I haven't seen where he is going on a lot of visits and other things like that, but I would not be surprised, right? It's also being reported that this year in the portal, more kids have entered, which means there's going to be less money out there, right? For a lot of these kids that are entering the portal, and a lot of them think their agents, their uncle or brother or homeboy tells them they can get this certain amount of money. They enter the portal, they cannot get that amount of money, right? Especially you don't got a lot of good film in a college game to show other schools. It gets difficult. So I do know the Buckeyes are at least making some sort of effort to get both of those players back, but also Buckeye third string players are sought after by a lot of teams. Ernie, thanks for the $4.99. Reality is Julian needed some experience in big games. He will be much better next year. Well said, Ernie. Julian Saints, first year, first time in big games, and he was still the most accurate quarterback in the nation. He was at the Heisman ceremony. I don't know, Nevada.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's going to be better. He'll be, quarterbacks generally get better with experience. That's about true to about 99%. And look, we were the team with the youngest quarterback pretty much in all of college football, other than Fats Underwood. And most of the teams are going with these transfer guys, third, fourth, fifth year guys. We went with the redshirt freshman, but that's going to pay dividends for us down the road. So I'm looking forward to seeing it as well.
Steely, thanks for the $1.99, man. Jamie French, no freaking way. I feel you there, no doubt. Clueless, thanks for the $5. Hope we can get some CB production from the two freshmen coming in this year. Excited for Jordan and Jay. Yeah, guys, listen, today the Big Dog Award for the All-American practices went to none other than Jaquaden Guilford, a wide receiver coming into Ohio State, who we have been telling you for quite some time the Buckeyes had as number 2 on their board, just below Chris Henry Jr., and I'm talking just below him. But another standout today, he's been standing out the entire time, is Jordan Thomas. He has been dominating the Buckeyes' number 1 want at the cornerback position in this recruiting class. Number 1. They held him at a very high standard and paid him accordingly for that. So, very hard as a freshman to come in, but I do think there are some players in this freshman class that can give us at least some depth in this upcoming year. Nevada?
Yeah, no, I know they're excited about both those guys. And, I think that you're talking about an insanely talented Ohio State team, but an insanely talented recruiting. I like the recruiting class that came in last year a lot. All of them early entrants, and I think they're going to pay, big dividends for us in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. Buckeyes seem to be very good with their talent acquisition process. It's still working out. Everybody wants to point to all the 5 stars and stuff that they lose in each class, yet they still hang on to a couple of them, and it'll be different every single year. Nobody can predict how many recruits are going to leave out of a class. Some will stay, some will go. Doesn't matter if you get more out of high school, if you get more out of the portal. It's all the same, right? You just got to keep grinding, keep doing it out. Nevada, any final thoughts on anything? Dude, did you know, Nevada? I just figured this out probably 3 hours ago. There is a college football game tonight.
Did not know that. Is this the Florida A&M Jacksonville State Jackrabbit Bowl or something like that tonight?
Yeah, I think Jacksonville State's playing for sure, but I just can't remember. I think maybe against Miami. Maybe.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. My interest level in college football fell precipitously after the debacle in the Cotton Bowl. I was there with you though. I was there with you. Enjoyed the time, but yeah, that was a little less than optimal. But yeah, who are you rooting for tonight? There, who you got?
Dude, I got Ole Miss, man.
Yeah, I'm with you there,
I
man.
want Ole Miss walking away with it.
I can't root for Miami in any way, shape, or form. So I'm rooting for. I don't think that they're going to win, but I'm rooting for Ole Miss. So let's go Rebels.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts, Nevada? We'll get off here, and I might turn the game on so it's in the background, but I'll probably just watch a movie. Anyway, final thoughts?
Just Ohio State fans, man. I'm telling you, stay the course. I am not negatively inclined at all about where we are, about where we're going, and I really I like the tenacity that Ohio State's demonstrating in this. I like the ingenuity. I like their approach, and it's all hands on deck. So I think we're going to have a favorable outcome. It may not be the outcome exactly that you're looking for, but Ohio State, it won't be for lack of trying. And I really think I really believe that we'll go into the 2026 season with the most talented team in college football. I firmly believe that, and we'll see where we end up with this portal thing. But I like where Ohio State's going, and I like the activity.
Yeah, you're one of those people that are freaking out right now. I've got to ask you a question. When you buy a lottery ticket, do you only scratch off one number? And if it's a loser, do you throw it away? I don't. I like scratching them all off. The Buckeyes have scratched maybe one number off. It's a loser, and everybody is tripping. There's a long way to go in this process. Ohio State and Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni, and this coaching staff have proved year in and year out that they are able to acquire talent that will put us in the playoffs with a chance to win the national title. That will happen again next year. Everything's going to be all right. If it's meant to be, it'll be. I almost started singing it, but luckily for you, I didn't. I appreciate all you guys for the support. Don't forget, hit that like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button. Also, download Spreaker, the app. Like, subscribe for Scoop, Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe as well. Buckeye Scoop message board is red hot. Got to try it out. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH. IO. Thanks, Nevada.